we're going to move on to what students want. So first off, they want the credentials. Here's an interesting exercise that Jason did. He asked his students, which of these would they prefer? Number 1, graduate from Georgetown with a diploma but learn nothing. Number 2, graduate from East Podunk State College in Dublin. Or number 3, not graduate from any college but triple their knowledge. Do you know which number from most to least the students picked in?
Probably 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he said nearly unanimously A, B, and C, or 1, 2, 3 in that order. Yeah. So this is revealing. Okay, a lot of students, they just want the credentials. It's okay. I'm going to do what I have to get the credentials and get out. So I have a Georgetown diploma. That looks good, but what did I actually learn? And as you sort of touched on, a lot of the college materials can be found free of charge. Free course materials from MIT are online. Lectures from Berkeley are online. I know Harvard, you can actually sit in on some of the classes. I had a friend who actually sat in on philosophy classes there. So some of them, they'll actually let you even sit in. And of course, the challenge with that is you won't get a diploma and nobody will know you're there. So, and then
just look at the information now.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you just want to learn the information, but then it gets into the question of, okay, the credentials are what opens the door. Again, if you, like with my restaurant example, if you have these big names on your resume, people see that and they're more likely to pick you out. So the third one here was a sort of a hard sell because it's a weaker signal. Now, that's one of the things I mentioned with Praxis in a previous conversation. That's one of the things that they've really specialized in, is how to sell yourself without the diploma. It's how do you create some work, make some videos, do something to stand out. That way you can signal to employers that you have value to add. And then, of course, once you start to gain work experience, that'll show up on your resume as well. But it's a harder thing to do, but at the same time, it can be more valuable. Like Derek Mcgill, the former marketing director, he went and started his own company. He did marketing work for free, but then once he did that well, he used that to get other marketing work, and then from that, put that onto a resume, and then use that to sort of springboard into other things. And some of the Praxis applicants, they say that's one of the things you have to do when you apply there is you have to make videos or submit some creative project. Show like you're trying to show to your employers that you can add value in some way. And I think that these things need to be stressed more because it shows, hey, this person took the initiative to create something. They're smart. They can create something. They can add value. It's not just coasting through getting the piece of paper and then how much did they learn? And that's happened at culinary school as well. People have complained standards have been lowered. So I had a teacher who graduated valedictorian, and he always hated being put in the same category as people who just coasted through, because he said, look, I was always studying. I was in the library on my spare time. I was doing this, and they're putting me in the same category as people who just coasted through the classes, did the bare minimum. And it's not really fair. And again, what does it say in terms of signaling? So,
yeah. And of course, there is something to keep in mind that some people will have different backgrounds and lifestyles that might afford them the time to be able to put in that apprenticeship, put in that free time or internship or things like that. But it's also just a simple thing of calculating your time preferences. We always hear these stories that are put up by the media. Oh, this person came up from, I think it started, they might have been one that started this whole new trend or how it started, how it's going. I don't know. That's a kind of meme that's going on.
Yeah,
one of them, I think in particular, I don't know if this one in specific started, but apparently someone in Nigeria was studying somehow at some school in Nigeria, and then he got a scholarship to Harvard or something now. And you have those stories. So if it's possible for people in those kind of extreme cases to find time to do something that's impressive enough to get into an institution like that, or to do certain things, achieve certain job, then we can look at things in our lives and say, okay, maybe instead of doing this one thing, leisure is a positive thing. Having a better phone is a positive thing. Going to meet some friends on some night is a positive thing. These things have values, but it's something that you're making a calculation that you want to do this versus that. We almost all have lives. If you're not literally physically bleeding out and dying right now, there is probably something in your life that you can sacrifice and spend doing something else that can arguably improve your life in the future versus taking that current good that you're seeing now, like saving that time, investing that time in something else, in some kind of skill enrichment or some kind of display of a personal skill. Could be something that's in there. And I don't know, I think I also want to thinking about creating a platform for that, because one thing being in the artistic field, visual arts and things like that, there's a lot of time where I think I've been spending this time watching this video or listening to this thing, or even recording some of the videos where I can be like, I could be sculpting, I could be drawing, I could be working on a personal project. And I feel there's a lot of people out there, very talented people who have the ability to be creative that don't have the outlet or don't understand how often they can actually spend a little time here, a little time there doing something, and they could create and give something back to the world that is, or share something to the human story that is very beneficial and enriching to everybody else. So that's just my call to people is like, yes, don't look at these people and say, oh, well, that guy was rich enough to spend some time to work for free, and then that's how come he's all wealthy and now he can start practice. It's like, no, he made those decisions. That same level that he was to be able to take that free work, those same connection, that same level in life could probably have been used to enter something else that was paying immediately at some different level. So it's kind of just something I have in mind.
I wanted to talk a bit about Derek Mcgill and his father. I used to follow both of them pretty regularly. I haven't in a little bit. I'm still sort of peripherally aware, but I don't follow as closely. Derek Mcgill and his dad are actually both college dropouts. Derek, I can find it for you, but he was on Tom Woods' show a while back, and he told his story how he was studying the classics. I'm trying to think if it was in Michigan or something, and he got into some issues, I guess, with affirmative action. There was actually a lawsuit. He's white himself, so I guess he sued or there was something with that, and he dropped out. But then he got into his marketing and sort of, like I said, used it as a springboard to get in other things. He was marketing director for Praxis. Now he's CEO of his own company. He's a bit younger than me, so I mean, he's really a go-getter. And then his father is interesting because he has a similar story. His father owns the Glock store in California. His father's a college dropout as well, and I guess his father and he, I guess they're both from families that spend a lot of time in college. So when his father dropped out, everyone was like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? But he started working, I guess, as a cook and then as a server. And somehow he got into radio, and then he started doing videos for Glock, like on his own. And then they ended up hiring him, and he ended up running this Glock store, and he makes good money, has a nice house and all that. But there was a podcast a while back too, where he was describing his story as well. And he basically said something like, even his advice he kept emphasizing was, even if you have a job that you think is really menial or tedious, work very hard at it, because if you do, people will recognize that, and then that'll open doors elsewhere. And that's essentially what happened for him. So even if you're just a cook, okay, then you become a server, then okay, somehow he met someone in radio and he got a job doing that. But he was saying, but people saw, okay, this guy's smart, he's hardworking, so that opened up doors that way as well. And again, they were both college dropouts and ended up doing very well. So I don't think they have some superhuman abilities. It's a combination of hard work, determination, forward thinking, and just putting themselves out there, showing, okay, here's what I can accomplish, and then people, that signals to certain people who will give you a platform to do it. In short,
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's again another key thing of this conversation. College is not the deciding factor. We can look at some people like college dropouts, like the Mark Zuckerbergs, like the McGills you just talked about, and say, oh, look, you don't need college. You can still do. It's like, no, because the purpose of college is to prepare you to do something for life.
Yeah.
So if you can find something to do in life, this whole, oh, I'm educated, I'm credentialized, that's not that important. The key is, can you do something to make a living, to maintain a living, to be something that is productive? If you could do that without college, like majority of the world doesn't have a college degree, specifically the vast majority, 99.999% of the world, does not have a college degree from the institution that you went to. So even if you think going to that particular institution and getting that particular degree was very central for you to make a living, for you to be productive, understand that isn't the case for 99.99999% of the people alive today, because they did not go to that university. So the key thing is finding something you're able to do, and I think there's better ways to do it. In general, we shouldn't just have this ultra focus, like, if I can't make it to university, I'm not going to be able to achieve anything. Yeah.
So moving on, students want less work and more play. They said students spend far more time on leisure now than in the past. In the 1960s, students spent about 40 hours a week studying or in class. Today, it's about 27 hours. So you figure 40 hours a week, that's a full-time job. Essentially, now it's a little over half of a full-time job. So in 1961, college students spent 25 hours a week studying. As of 2003, it had fallen to about 13. So again, about cut in half. Faculty have been assigning less work since the 1960s in terms of less reading and also shorter essays. I think they cite some numbers in the book. I didn't include them here, but if people really want to know, I can dig them up. So the last point, as far as students want to pay low costs. In the 1970s, James Buchanan and Nikos Devletoglu, I don't know if I'm saying it, looks like a Greek name. They made 3 observations regarding the publicly funded University of California system. So it's not publicly funded anymore, but this is what they noticed when it was publicly funded. Students consume the product but don't pay for it. Faculty provide the product but don't sell it. The public pays for it but doesn't consume it. So this sort of relates into our point about 7 economic insights. It distorts all these mechanisms. Instead of, I want this thing, I buy it directly, I pay for it with my own money, I know what I'm getting, versus this person pays for it, this person uses it, this person provides it but doesn't sell it. It distorts the whole thing, essentially.
Yeah.
And then so basically students and parents today do shoulder more of the cost than in the past, but of course we're going to get into that later on with issues with student loans and other things. So the first point, as far as students not paying for it, that doesn't apply as much anymore because students do pay for it, but the other points do, especially when you get into things like subsidies, grants, and all that. And of course, faculty guarantee jobs, but they don't have to provide value as directly. And the problem, in short, is a small but highly motivated group of people push for some pet project that is expensive, but the cost is dispersed among the students and or taxpayers. So each individual project will cost a little bit to each person, but factor in that that's happening hundreds or thousands of times. So that's what economists call the concentrated benefits dispersed costs. It's, oh, well, we'll tax everyone a little more for this. It'll only benefit these people. But again, add this up hundreds or thousands of times, it creates all these issues that we're dealing with.
Thank you for listening. This has been a clip from an actual longer recording that I'll try to leave a link to on the screen or somewhere around here where you're listening to this.
Presents. 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 Presents.
Peasants.
Okay. Okay.